Well, hello and welcome back to my kitchen table. What are we going to talk about this week? Well, it's quite straightforward, isn't it, really? Rally Germany and that fabulous result for MSport, and in particular for Ott Tanak. He really is beginning to look like the real deal. You have to say that with this win on tarmac, and it was a fabulously comfortable win, an inspired tyre choice on the Friday afternoon obviously helps, but incredibly comfortable on the tarmac, incredibly comfortable at that pace, didn't buckle under the pressure either. He is developing into the real deal, Ott Tanak. Is he a contender for this year's championship? Well, I don't think so. Why is that? Well, because I think he is effectively Ogier's wingman. I don't think that MSport can really afford to have their two drivers battling for the championship, but what they do have in Ott Tanak is a fabulous insurance policy, and what Ogier has in Tanak is a fabulous wingman. He is really the person that Latvala needed at the start of the year, didn't have to support his title challenge, that Neuville has needed all year and hasn't had. Neuville's been let down by his two teammates this year. You look at Sordo, you look at in particular Hayden Paddon, and they've not really been in a position on too many rallies to take points off of Sébastien Ogier, particularly when things haven't been going so well for Neuville himself. Now, what Ogier has in Tanak for the remaining three rallies is a driver who can quite comfortably battle against Thierry Neuville. He can take points off him. So if it's not going perhaps Ogier's way in Spain, in GB, in Australia, he knows he can rely on Ott Tanak. And I suppose more importantly, he can rely on the team. I found this all really quite astonishing. At the start of the year, if you'd looked for odds, and I'm sure one bet would have given us odds, on MSport winning the manufacturer's title, well, you know, it might have been a little tricky because you'd have said that Ogier for sure would be there or thereabouts, but you looked at Tanak and you thought, well, he's come from a couple of years in the DMAC car. You looked at, you know, the young Welsh boy Evans, and he was very much an unknown quantity. But more than that, you looked at the car and you said, wow, it's a fabulous looking car, no question about that. But it's got limited kilometres of testing on it. 4,000 kilometres, I think they did. You know, they didn't come to testing in that car until, well, it was nearly 2 months, 2 and a bit months before homologation, until we saw the first real, proper Fiesta World Rally car, 3 months maybe. They were late, they were really late, but Malcolm Wilson, when I talked to him about this, said, look, we never had any concerns. We do this. This is what we've done for the past 25 years. We built World Rally cars, we build good World Rally cars. But the question had to be reliability. With so little testing, with such a new formula, had to be reliability, but there's been absolutely no issue whatsoever. Yes, Ogier struggled with the setup of the car for the first few rallies, but when they got that sorted, the car has been imperious. It's been on the podium every rally. Ogier's been brilliant. Tanak has come into brilliance, and Elfyn Evans has shown signs of brilliance this year. They have been the most consistent team. They're now in a position where it is almost impossible for them not to win the manufacturer's title. Almost impossible. Don't forget, there are only 8 scoring cars in the manufacturers. So even if 2 of your drivers have very bad weekends, as long as they get to the finish on the Sunday, they're going to score points for 7th and 8th. Hyundai have to win and be second in the remaining rallies. That's not likely to happen. Perhaps Thierry Neuville is likely to win the remaining 3 rallies. But you can't really rely, sadly, on Sordo or Hayden Paddon to be supporting him there. So, as I say, the story of the year, I think, has almost already been written, and it's MSport, a private team taking on the might of Hyundai, the might of Toyota, the absolute might of Citroen, and thrashing them. Not just beating them, thrashing them. It's an incredible story, and if that does transpire to be the case, if they do win the manufacturers, and it's odds on that they will, and they end the year with a double in that Ogier wins the driver's title, it'll be one of the greatest ever stories in rallying, without any question, maybe even in motorsport. And you really can't overplay, you can't overstate just how incredible a job it is. They're a small team, they're a private team, run by private finances. Mr. Wilson's pocket that's more or less played for Ogier this year. and my admiration for the job that he has done knows absolutely no bounds. It's incredible, and hats off to Mr. Wilson and his team of boys and girls up there in Cumbria for flying the British flag, and I am unashamedly patriotic with this one. Listen, you know me, I just love to see good rally cars, good rallies, good rally drivers. But in this one, I'm unashamedly patriotic. I think it's a great British success story. And whatever happens towards the end of the year, I think we can celebrate that as fans of British rallying. But let's move on from MSport. Well done, MSport. Well done, Oik Tanak. Well done, Sebastian Ogier. And well done to Elvin Evans at the weekend. Listen, I wasn't there in Germany. I kept a close eye on what was going on. I was covering the Prestone British Rally Championship, presenting the TV programme there. We had a lot of fun. We'll talk about that on a future kitchen table stroke podcast. But listen, I was hearing all sorts of rumours. I'm in Ulster, in Derry, Londonderry, long way away from the service park on the banks of Lake Bostelsey. But the rumours that were coming out, how rapidly people's fortunes change, how rapidly stars rise and fall in rallying. Before the event, I'll tell you the situation that I thought with Citroen, because Citroen for me is the fascinating one. I still think that there is a bit of a crisis going on at Citroen. I don't think the ship has been steadied there at all, not at all. Yes, the car is looking better, but it looked good when we got to Corsica earlier on in the year. It looked like a winning car. Again, it looked like a winning car in Germany. It's the unpredictable nature of that car that's the problem. Have they sorted out that unpredictability? Well, we'll have to wait and see. Spain will be a reasonable test on the gravel. GB will be a proper test for it. But as they have said, there's not really too much of a rush to get that car right before the end of the year. They're now looking to 2018. And in looking to 2018, what Yves Maton has reported is saying this week is they will take their time to decide on which drivers can deliver for them what they need out of 2018. Now, what they need is a manufacturer's title, ideally a driver's title as well, but they need a manufacturer's title. So they need 3 strong drivers. Now, before the event started, I'd have said that Andreas Mikkelsen was on very dodgy ground. Very, very dodgy ground indeed. He hadn't done enough for me in those first 2 events. Yes, the car was difficult. I didn't see enough steel from the young man. And before the event started, I'd have said it looks pretty much odds on that Mick will stay, because don't forget, Mick has a rock solid contract till the end of 2018. Now, that doesn't mean he's going to drive till the end of 2018, but he has a pretty rock solid contract, my understanding is, until the end of 2018. So whatever happens, you know, if budget constraints come into it, then absolutely for sure Mick will drive. So my view before the event was Mick was odds on. Craig Meek. There's a new driver I've just invented. Craig Breen, for me, has done enough this year, even before Germany, for a seat next year. Because you have to have the right balance. For me, you have to have 2 drivers in a team capable of winning, and you have to have a 3rd driver who is rock solid in terms of delivering manufacturer points. Craig Breen was that man for me, with potential to challenge for wins. Don't write him off as a rally winner. Potential to challenge for wins, but that solidity that you need if you're challenging for a manufacturer's title. So they needed 2 drivers, or they still need 2 drivers who can fight for wins. There is no question about Chris Meek's ability to fight for wins. 3 wins in the last 18 months. He is the quickest of the quick on his day. My view was that next year we would see Loeb and Lefebvre sharing that 3rd car, with Loeb coming in strategically, perhaps not in Monte Carlo, because if you start well down the order in Monte Carlo, on a typical Monte Carlo, you're stuffed. If it's a very snowy Monte Carlo, if you're starting as the last of the World Rally cars, lots of fresh snow, you've got an advantage, but that's rare for Monte Carlo. So he might not start there, he might not start in Sweden, but you can imagine Loeb going to, say, Mexico and then going to Portugal. He would be pretty much favourite for both of those events, I would imagine. So I could see a position before Germany where we would have more or less Chris Meek still there, Craig Breen still there, Lefebvre still there, supported by Loeb. That's all changed. In my view, that's all changed since Germany, since stage 1, since that crash. Huge question marks now over Chris Meek. But listen, I hate to say this because I'm the biggest Meek fan out there. But it's tough for him. It really is tough. I don't think he has been treated well. I think that the situation, the crisis within Citroen Racing is working very much against him. I think if we had a solid team there where everyone was certain of their jobs, from the very top down to the engineers, I think we would have seen Chris Meek treated the way that Hyundai and Michel Nondon have treated in the past 2 years Thierry Neuville, and this year Hayden Paddon. Arm around the driver, all the support he needs, help him through the tough times because you've got every faith in him. So you do that. But that's not the same at Citroen. There's all sorts of strange things going on there. There's all sorts of strange decisions being made. And I'm not entirely convinced that every one of those decisions is made for the best of sporting reasons. And I don't think Chris Meek has had the support he deserves. And sadly, there has to be the possibility that he will take the blame for it all. And he will be the sacrificial lamb. And forget Poland, you know, that was just a one-off benching. But who knows? I fear for Chris Meek. And that is compounded by Mikkelson's performance. Mikkelsen for me is a little bit of an enigma. And I think he was a bit of an enigma at Volkswagen. I think in the 3.5 years that he was at Volkswagen, he under-delivered. And we didn't see, we saw the real Mikkelsen on limited occasions at Volkswagen. And when we did see the real Mikkelsen, it was brilliant. In particular, Australia last year. Brilliant. And he has that ability. But he reminds me quite a lot of Danny Sordo, in that where he's comfortable and confident, he is the best. But that doesn't happen on every round. He struggles for confidence on certain rallies, on certain surfaces, with certain setups. And then we see mediocre Mikkelsen. Where he is comfortable and confident, we see brilliant Mikkelsen. I think we saw the brilliance of Mikkelsen at the weekend. And if he can continue, if he gets any further chances, now nothing is confirmed, but we have this 6-week break, and Maton has said we will wait till the end of the 6 weeks to get news. But if he's given another chance and he continues in that form, he has to be a real threat to Chris Meek for next year. If, as I believe, Loeb may well make a limited return. If Loeb doesn't make a return, I don't think Citroen have got too many options. I think they have to go with Mikkelsen, Meek, Breen. Maybe even Breen sharing the car again with Lefebvre, because I can't imagine really a French team as things stand without a French driver involved somehow. You know, there are other options, mind you. You know, Oyt Tanak, where is he going at the end of this year? I think he has to stay at MSport. I think Malcolm Wilson gets the best out of Oyt Tanak, no question about that. Could he go to Citroen? Well, he could. He could go to Citroen. I think he's more likely. I think he's most likely to stay at MSport. I think he could go to Toyota. I think he might even go to Hyundai. Now, we'll come on to that shortly. But, as I say, there aren't too many options available. You might take a gamble. You might go for Elvin Evans. Why not? Why not go for Evans? Although we're hearing he may well have a contract at MSport for next year. And he deserves that because he has looked really strong this year. You know, would you take a gamble on one of the youngsters, on Teemu Sunninen? Again, you might do. You might do. I don't know. But that doesn't really suit the Citroen policy of manufacturer titles. They need solid drivers. A, who can potentially fight for wins, and B, who they can rely on to score points. Mikkelsen, Meek, Breen. Yeah, that's a good lineup. Mikkelsen, Loeb, Breen, Lefebvre. That's a possible lineup. And we have to think that that might well be what Citroen go with next year. We'll have to wait and see. Anyway, moving on, Hyundai. Again, from across the water, I'm hearing rumours. You know, I talked earlier about Michel Nondon putting his arm around his drivers when they're struggling. Well, his arms are only so long, and they'll only stay there for a certain length of time. He'll get cramp in them if they're there for 2 or 3 or 4 years, won't he? I think Hayden Paddon needs to up his game. I think he's got 3 rallies. I think Paddon has got 3 rallies to show that he can master the 2017 car. It's his driving style. He had a very unfortunate start to the year, and you can't underplay how difficult mentally that is to deal with. But Hayden Paddon has to start delivering. Otherwise, I think potentially his seat is in danger, because there are options. And what Hyundai need, Hyundai were odds on for the manufacturers this year, and they've been let down by Paddon and by Sordo. Neuville has been great. and has delivered the points consistently. You take out obviously the first couple of events, but he has delivered the points, and the last event, Germany, yeah, didn't deliver there either. But he has been their #1 driver without any question this year, but he's not had the support. So, you know, is Padden's seat in doubt? Well, I would hope not, because I like Hayden Padden a lot, and I know he has huge ability and he has huge potential. And I think, you know, if he does manage to find himself in the right place with his confidence and perhaps adapt his driving style slightly, he will be a contender for next year's title. But he's got 3 rallies to prove his worth, I believe, because there are options again for Monsieur Nandon. We'll have to wait and see what happens there. But that's the rumour that I was hearing from outside of the service park. It's maybe you know, as these rumours come all the way across the waters to Ireland, they may have lost some of their veracity in their journey. We'll have to wait and see. But for sure, it's looking quite interesting heading in towards the latter part of the year. Toyota, there will be movements there as well. Latvala will have a teammate in Lappi, that is for sure. But you know, goodness me, after a terribly difficult start to the year, Juho Hänninen is now really waving his little Finnish flag and saying, pick me, pick me, pick me. And he'd be hard to ignore if he continues with this consistency, because as I say, Toyota will be looking at a manufacturer's challenge next year. And in Lappi and in Latvala, you have 2 drivers who, as I say, I think the perfect combination. 2 winners, 1 solid driver. Lappi, well, he is a winner. He's a winner. Is he a consistent winner? Time will tell. Latvala, as in the form of his life, is definitely a winner. You want that solid 3rd driver. Goodness me, you know, the way it's looking with Juho Hänninen, you might well go for Juho Hänninen. You might, if he can cut those mistakes out. He did it during the IRC years. He was very, very unpredictable, and he was very, very crash prone at the start of his IRC career. He then basically sorted himself out, got himself into a zone that he was comfortable in, and he didn't have a mistake in 2 years of IRC driving, tarmac and gravel. And he was enormously impressive. If he can find that form in the last 3 events, then you know, he makes it very difficult for Tommi Mäkinen to get rid of him. But Mäkinen has lots of options, you know, lots and lots of options out there. Sunonen, if he wants to keep the Finnish project going, is definitely an option. Maybe, as we've talked about, the 2 MSport boys, Tanak or Elvin Evans, are options. There are others, so we'll have to wait and see. It's getting very interesting though as the season comes to an end. So there we are. That's my little kitchen table for you all. Whatever you think of what I've said, it would be great to hear your thoughts. So put them down. It's on the Facebook page. Colin Clark Rally is my Facebook page. Have a little look. Put your comments down below. I'll try and answer as many of them as I can. There we are. My thoughts from the kitchen table from Rally Germany. Thanks very much, as always, for joining me.